children are gifts to their parents, no? Although some children were not planned, no? They say that kung nabitong termino nga usaong na disgrasya man, no? As if the child is a curse, no? But knowing that only God can give a woman a child, we always consider a child a blessing, no? And the blessing of a child is best appreciated in the context of a family. So the intention should first be the relationship between husband and wife. Only then will they look forward to the generation of offspring that they will desire to have a child. No? And we know that marriage is the foundation of the family, and the family is the foundation of society. Now, knowing this as part of human nature, no? God inserted himself in history. He became man and lived in a family. The family of Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. No? Now we celebrate today the feast of the Holy Family. We know how Mary and Joseph have been obedient to the will of the Father. And it is because of their obedience to God's will that they became a family. Mary could not understand why she could become a mother when she had no relations with a man. And yet she trusted the message of the angel. Joseph could not understand why Mary could become pregnant when he did not touch her. And he could not believe that Mary had been unfaithful to her. And again, Joseph, obedient to the angel who appeared to him in a dream, took Mary as his wife. Now, the obedience of Joseph and Mary to God's will, no, became their foundation of being the stewards of the Jesus that comes to them as an infant and grows as a man. So Joseph had to provide for the family. Mary had to take care of the child. No? And part of taking care of the child is what we hear today in the gospel. No? In one of their Passover celebrations, they lost track of Jesus. No? Well, this is the fifth joyful mystery, the finding in the temple. Now, what usually happens is that when groups travel, the children travel together, and of course, at the end of the day, when they gather to rest, it is only then that they look for each other, and after a day's journey, they notice that Jesus was not with them. So they had to spend another day to travel back to Jerusalem to find Jesus. It was only on the third day that they found Jesus in the temple. They did not understand why Jesus had to do this. Jesus simply told them, I have to be in my Father's house. And even then, that Jesus made it clear to his parents that it was part of his mission to study scriptures or to learn from the learned in the temple. Jesus submitted himself to the authority of Joseph and Mary. Jesus went with them and submitted himself until he was 30 years old. No? So we see how Jesus also had been obedient not only to his Father in heaven, but to his earthly parents. This is the relationship of the Holy Family. The parents who were obedient to God's will, the Son who is obedient to his parents. No? This celebration is not just for us to know how Joseph, Mary, and Jesus related with each other. As we heard in the second reading, this is to illustrate that when Jesus became man and lived in a family, this is to prepare us that after his mission, we all are going to be part of his family because we will become children of God. This is now the fruit of Jesus' mission. He lived in a family to show to us that he is part of human history. He is in every family whose parents are obedient to God's will and doing God's will in taking care of their children now evokes obedience in the children also. No? Natural man, no? O makita sa mga anak nga ang ilang ginikanan matirumanon sa sugo sa Dios, dili lisod o tuman sa anak sa sugo sa ilang inahan. No? That means parents also have to be consistent with what they say and do. Di mahimo mo, kamo ayaw mo pagpanigarilyo, ako ra. Di mo mahimo maginom-inom, ako ra. No? Sometimes we do not think the same. No? We always say, oh, there is a generation gap. But whatever generation we are in, the truth is that if we are all looking forward or moving forward towards one direction, then there is always some point when we meet each other. No? And that is, if we grow, whatever generation we are in, if we grow in obedience to God's commandments, in obedience to God's will, there will never be any conflict between us. No? Because if our motivation is love, we can never compete. We only cooperate. But if we start to focus on ourselves, no? The conflict between husband and wife, because the husband now thinks that his wife should revolve around him or the other way around, chances are you forget that the relationship should revolve around God, then there will be conflict. Now, if we look up to the Holy Family, we see how Jesus have been patient through the daily chores in life. No? He did not have a career. He was simply the son of a carpenter. And yet, in the very ordinary life that he lived, he made his life holy. Which means we don't have to make our lives complicated. We don't have to be very intelligent for us to be holy. We just have to find God in the very ordinary things that we do. And the Holy Family tells us that that is very possible. If you only find God's presence in the very ordinary things that we do, even if we are a very ordinary family, chances are we will be moving towards the right direction. We will find fulfillment in life. Not because your son will continue your legacy, will propagate your name or your fame, no? But because you know that in your children, parents will know that in their children, they have participated in God's creative power, that they have born a separate, distinct individual who is also God's child, not the property of the parents. No? And we hope and pray that as we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, we look into and evaluate into our own relationships within the family. How do we treat our parents? Parents, how do you treat your children? Husbands, how do you treat your wife? Do you still consider? No? Do you still take it as part of your consideration, God's will in how your family should be? Or is it just your dreams? Is it just your will that you need to follow? No? Namangutan na ta, unsa may atong gustong mahitabo? Unsa may atong considerations? No? Is it for our own selves? or is it for the greater glory of God? Jesus became man, lived in a family, not to glorify himself, but to glorify God and to teach us that in the very ordinary things that we do, we can be holy, especially in the family. That is our hope and our prayer.